Hello, and welcome to episode 164 of Pop Culturally Deprived, where each week we watch a movie I've never seen before, which is still most of them, and talk about the good, the bad, and the regurgitative reaction to mistruthin'. This week we're going to be talking about Knives Out on your My Mind's Made Up podcast. I'm Mandi Kaye, and you can find me on Twitter at Mandi Kaye if you just want to marvel at everything I still haven't seen.
And I'm Matthew Vose. I'm on Twitter at Matthew Vose. I wish there were new movies coming out and movie news. I'm missing leaks and discussion.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean.
We
did just get a drop of the first shot of Timothée Chalamet in June.
That's exactly what's made me think about it, because that shot came out and I was like, oh my God, something I can think about.
Yeah, exactly. I had the same reaction. It was almost like, oh, weird, a piece of movie news. Yeah. Okay, I haven't seen one. It's been too long.
That's not, Marvel coming up with, oh, here's something you didn't know about Endgame. We know everything about Endgame. Yeah. Stop telling us things about Endgame.
or some other movie being cancelled or pushed back.
So, as you've just heard, this week we're joined by AJ from the Cult Popture Podcast. Everyone has heard...
Hello.
Everyone's heard us mention the show before, digging into franchises and any film topic that you can come up with. So, we're delighted to have you. Welcome.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you so much. It's good to be here.
So
here meaning the comfort of my own room in the middle of a nationwide lockdown in New Zealand. Are you guys in lockdown? Where are you guys from?
Yeah, we are heavy lockdown in the UK.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Matthew's in the UK and I am in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Also in lockdown.
Nice.
It's kind of exciting having a different person.
All locked out together.
Yeah. So Knives Out, this is the most recent movie we've done since last year when we did See You Yesterday. And at the end of See You Yesterday, our guest Connie Gibbs said, oh, you must see Knives Out. I just saw it at Toronto International and it was amazing. So it's quite fun. This is the next one. Did you see this at the cinema? Did you catch it as soon as it came out?
Yeah, so what happened is my co-host on Cult Popture, Richard, told me and our sometimes co-host, Rowan, that he was going to go to a preview screening that weekend for it. And we were both like, oh, is there preview screenings? Because we live in different cities to Richard. And so Rowan and I then worked out that it was playing a couple hours before Richard could see it, I think. And so we went to that version of it, a preview screening of it. And since then, I have seen it, I think 2 or 3 more times, showing it to friends. I made a video about it on my YouTube channel, on the Cult Popture YouTube channel. So I rewatched a lot of it for that. But I've only seen it through, I think, 3 times, but pretty recently.
Only.
So, Yeah, which is actually pretty significant for me. Because of the podcast, where I end up watching so many movies per week. I mean, relative to people who don't do podcasts, I guess. There's very little time in my life to just watch a movie leisurely. The closest I'll get to watching a movie for just because I want to watch it is like a new release at the cinema. That's really I don't typically rewatch films I love or watch a new movie just because. I've become this person who only does things if I can turn it into content, which has its ups and downs.
I think we feel your pain on that.
I'll bet.
Well, Matthew does this thing where he watches so many movies every year. What are you up to this year?
I just hit 75.
You've already watched 75 movies this year. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think, AJ, you'll probably be on that. But, like, you watch, oh, hey, there's 40 James Bond films. Let's watch them in a month.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if I've watched that many, and then I remember how many James Bond movies I've had to watch this year for the podcast. So, yeah, you might be right.
I can officially no longer complain about how many movies I watched for the podcast.
There you go.
So your video, we will absolutely link to it in the show notes. What was the video?
It's called The Politics of Knives Out, and when I first saw Knives Out, I got a very obvious political message being communicated to me, which luckily I agreed with and was all good with hearing it and didn't feel preached to. And I was like, I should make a video on that. And then I was like, it's so obvious, and someone else will make a video about it. And as the months went on, no one did anything. And I was like, am I the only... I'm not the only one who noticed this, but no one else has made a politics of Knives Out. At least not a left-leaning one. There are a lot of, right-wing or alt-right YouTube vloggers talking about how Knives Out went woke and got broke, which is not true. But so I was like, all right, I'll make one. And I made it, and it got posted to Reddit, and there were equal comments saying the political commentary was so obvious, I'm surprised someone had to make a video about it, and you are reaching, there is nothing here, it's just a fun movie. Which kind of was a weird way of validating my own work, right?
Well, it's
that enough people were disagreeing with the fact there was disagreement proves the need for the video.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, we will make sure that's linked to for everyone to go and watch, and I'm hoping you will pull some of that out as we talk about it. But for anyone who's not seen it, Mandi, what's Knives Out about?
All right, I took the Google synopsis this time because IMDb just does not do it justice. The circumstances surrounding the death of crime novelist Harlan Thrombey are mysterious, but there's one thing that renowned detective Benoit Blanc knows for sure. Everyone in the wildly dysfunctional Thrombey family is a suspect. Now Blanc must sift through a web of lies and red herrings to uncover the truth.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That covers it way better than IMDb did.
Did you see trailers for this when it was coming out? Were you interested in it?
I did see a couple of the trailers, and I thought that cast is amazing, so I really want to watch it just for that. But at the time, I wasn't really interested in the story.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Are we doing spoilers?
Yes.
Yes?
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
We do deep dives. Yeah. Anybody who listens to our show should assume that we're going to talk about everything.
Because I just asked because the synopsis you just read out, which is of course what most of the movie was marketed on, it's so funny because that's not really the synopsis for a huge chunk of the film. It's totally about something else,
right?
And I think that's what I liked about it so much. Yeah.
Well, why don't you give us your brief synopsis?
Well, Knives Out, at least for the second act, which would be most of the film, is a reverse murder mystery where it's not about figuring out who did it. It's you at least think you know who did it, but you really like who did it, and so you're wanting them to get away. So it's the opposite of a murder mystery. It's someone covering their tracks as opposed to you piecing together everything. And in the end, it does turn out that the person we thought did it was innocent, and there is a real murderer. But I didn't know that until it was revealed. Like, I wasn't expecting there to... I was expecting some kind of third act twist, but I wasn't expecting to learn that there was actually a different murderer. And so it's so interesting to watch a movie like that and be like, I want the guilty person to get away without anyone finding out that it was them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I found myself kind of in the whole movie trying to do mental gymnastics to get her out of it. Try and figure out, this can't possibly be what happened. This is just what she thinks happened. And I was going through all of this stuff. So, I mean, I thought it was good, for sure.
Yeah.
Before we get into too much more, though, I do want to give a bit of history and production info for folks who aren't super familiar with it. Knives Out is a 2019 mystery film written and directed by Rian Johnson. A modern whodunit, the film features an ensemble cast, including Jamie Lee Curtis, Daniel Craig, Don Johnson, Michael Shannon, Chris Evans, Toni Collette, and Christopher Plummer. It has grossed $313 million so far against a $40 million budget. It was positively received by critics and audiences alike, garnering several award nominations, including Best Original Screenplay at the Academy Awards, and the American Film Institute included it in the top 10 films of 2019.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Pretty popular movie.
Yeah, I ranked it my number one film of 2019, I believe, which I didn't think I was going to do because I had such a visceral, enjoyable experience watching Avengers Endgame that it felt like I would be lying to myself to say I like just on a fundamental practical level that I enjoyed any movie more than Avengers Endgame. Just you could almost look at the maths or the science of it and see that how much I enjoyed it. But Knives Out did. I actually ended up rating Endgame third behind Knives Out and Marriage Story as well. So these are all recommendations, I guess, for future episodes of Pop Culturally Deprived. But yeah, I love Knives Out. I think it's such a cool movie.
It's one of the few movies that I can remember coming out in 2019 that wasn't Star Wars or Marvel.
Yep. Pretty fair.
Yeah.
So, were you able to find it anywhere over there, Mandy, to stream, to rent, to buy?
It is available to rent on Amazon. So, I think anywhere you can rent it, although it's expensive. It's like $6.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I usually pay like $3 to rent something.
Wow.
Basically the same over here as well. It's not on an actual streaming platform yet, but yes, you can rent it on any of them. It has the feel of something that will come to Sky, so I'll get it at some point.
Yeah.
I watched it on. We have a third-party streaming service in New Zealand called Lightbox, and it's on there, I think, or is it on Neon? It's on one or the other. But I have bought the Steelbook online. I bought it about a week before the lockdown happened. And it has not arrived yet, and I do not know when I should expect it to arrive.
So it's your fault for being that excited that's caused all the lockdowns.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mandy, you said about the cast and crew, pretty major players across all of them. What's your experience of them?
I mean, I'm pretty sure we've already talked about almost all of them on PCD before, so I don't really want to go through that whole list. It's probably easier to say who I'm not familiar with. Ana de Armas, the woman who played Marta. I had never seen her in anything before, and she was phenomenal.
Yeah, she's so good. Like, I think Benoit Blanc is the like more obvious choice for like the best character in the movie. But every time I watch this movie, I'm so warmed by Marta as a character. She's such a wonderful person, and the whole movie, she's a wonderful person in a way that isn't showy, so you don't necessarily remember her being such a great character, but her likability is like essential to how the story works, because she's the one that you think accidentally killed Harlan for most of the film. And so it wouldn't work if she was anything less than perfect in a way, She's this wonderful person who's the only nice person in the whole Thromby, Drysdale kind of clan, and she's the guilty one. It's so good. I love this movie.
Yeah, I found it interesting because based on the trailer and the way the movie was marketed, I expected the detective, Daniel Craig, to be the main character. Then he wasn't.
Well, they've announced that they're going to do a sequel, and there is talk of it being a franchise where it's Benoit Blanc doing different murder mysteries. But I'm like, you've got to do it so he's secondary to the plot every time, and I wonder how they'll do that, because I think that's one of this movie's secret weapons, is that he's not actually front and center for most of it. Like, no one knew going into this movie who the main character actually was, and I think that's really rare and that's really special.
You've just made me wonder, like, could they turn this into a kind of Cloverfield thing? Like a new detective story comes out, and it turns out it's Benoit Blanc.
Yeah, exactly. Sort of. Like, I think all I expect from a sequel would be, whatever murder mystery you want it to be, but I'd love if there was still that deeper kind of analogy because like for those who haven't seen it and have just heard a bunch of spoilers about it, Knives Out's about immigration. The whole movie, this is what my video is about. The whole movie's about immigration and kind of the privileged white America's treatment of immigrants. So I would love for like Knives Out 2 or whatever it's called to be about climate change or something, some other political topic that it like makes a microcosm for, because that's what Knives Out is. It's this mansion and these suspects as America and like American stereotypes, and Marta is the immigrant, and it's sort of like they have an excuse to deport her, so to speak, and it's about trying to get around that, I guess. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I don't mean to Americasplain to a actual American. I apologize.
No,
if this comes
please
off
do.
as...
Absolutely.
Okay, we're using Americasplain in the future. That's good. Mandi, were you actually expecting a detective story? What sort of thing did you think you were going in for?
Yeah, no, I was expecting a detective story. I wasn't sure what form it was going to take, really. But I mean, across the screen, either in the trailer or right at the beginning of the movie, it says a modern whodunit.
Okay.
Right? Maybe that's the trailer. I just...
Yeah, it says like a whodunit like nobody's ever done it.
Right,
Trailer,
okay.
I think.
Nice.
Right, yeah.
Okay. I think we already know, but Mandi, hey, did you enjoy this film?
I did. I really liked it.
How much? Like,
nice.
Amazing? Great?
It's the first one we've done in a long time that I've wanted to sit down and rewatch right away. So, yeah, really liked it a lot.
Do we think it rewards second viewings?
Yes. I think so.
Yeah, it's a different movie on second viewing because you see a lot of things that become callbacks that I wouldn't have noticed otherwise. Like, there's the two things I didn't notice the first time I watched. Well, yeah, I mean, one of them is pretty incidental. Like so the last shot of the film is Marta, who's just inherited the house and cleared her name, is like staring down at all the Thrombys and Drysdales, and she takes a sip from a mug that has like "My House, My Rules" written on it. And you see that cup is like one of the first things you see in the film, like someone else drinking from it. So I didn't notice that the first time I watched it. And also when Ransom tries to kill Marta right at the end when he's been found out, he pulls a knife out of the knife structure sort of art piece that is in Harlan's office, and he like tries to stab Marta with it only to find out it's a fake knife. And earlier in the film, when they're talking about Ransom, Harlan's like, he wouldn't know a fake knife from a real one. Which I'm kind of glad I didn't pick up on the first time I watched it, because I'm worried I would have worked out what was going to happen based on such a pointed line, I guess.
Yeah, that one I did catch. Like, as soon as he pulled it out, I realized, oh, that's why they had that line in there. Because one of the things that Matthew and I like to point out, well, Matthew likes to point out, and it's rubbed off on me, is Chekhov's gun.
And I've got a video on that. I've got YouTube's second most viewed video on Chekhov's gun. So there you go.
I will have to check that out. But because of that, I tend to notice now when things might possibly be pointed and seem random but are going to come up later. And this movie had a lot of them. And I feel certain I didn't catch them all. And so I want to rewatch it, especially not looking for the twist. Because I was looking for the twist this whole movie. And so now that I know how it's going to play out, it'll be much easier on the rewatch to kind of just let things happen and really be able to see how they tie into the end and how some may or may not be misdirection.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
I think that looking for the twist is the bit that lost me on this film. Like, I really enjoyed it well enough for what it was. I felt like the film wanted you to sit there and be like, oh, what is he doing? What are they doing? What is going on? And trying to take it apart. I think, for the whole time going, Harlan's behind this. He's coming up with something. He's trying to, orchestrate this as a game to see who should inherit. And then it's like, oh no, we told you everything at the beginning. It's just for different reasons than we were telling you then. I almost like the film was trying to be more clever, but whether that's me just trying to interrogate it and expecting too much.
No, I see what you mean.
I am one of those who spent the entire movie thinking Harlan orchestrated it, like that he hired Benoit, that possibly he wasn't even actually dead at one point.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think that's why this movie is so clever, because Rian Johnson knew we were going to do that. And so I think he was leaning into it so that he could actually surprise us by not giving us the twist that we expected.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because who's going to tell you the murderer in a whodunit in the first half an hour?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
But he did.
Because of what I said before about how it ends up being a reverse murder mystery, I think that's why I wasn't expecting another twist, was because I was like, this is clever enough.
Right, okay,
This is fresh enough of an idea for me to be like, oh, cool, so this is the movie.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing I was looking for, and this is possibly because of who everyone else in this film is, was actually Marta was setting it all up so that she inherited, you know, she's Machiavellian and a bit evil and so on, which I think goes completely against everything that you've said about the politics and what they were setting up there.
Yeah.
But just it feels like the TV movie twist.
Imagine the political reading of this film if Marta actually was just this conniving, evil person. Whoa, that would be dangerous. That would be a dangerous message to be sending to the people of America and the world.
And I think that's probably reading too much, because, like, exactly like you say, she is just a nice person, and it's well performed to sort of sell you on she's nice and she takes care of people in a good way without being twee with it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And in the they say it in the movie right at the end when Marta's sort of, you know, taking a breather after Ransom's been caught. Benoit Blanc goes up to her and says, I want you to know that you survived this not by doing it Harlan's way, but you did it by being a good person. Because one of the crucial building blocks in Ransom's plan was that after he kills Fran, the housekeeper, he's relying on Marta running from the scene of the crime, that he's like sort of framed her up to be having committed, but she stays to try and save her life, which is great that Ransom didn't think she would do that, and great that Marta did do that, because that tells you everything about those two characters.
Yeah, Ransom's character was interesting to me because I had heard everybody talking about how this was Chris Evans doing such a departure from Captain America. But when we're finally introduced to him, like, we get the bits and pieces of him fighting with Harlan at the party. But then when we see the conversation that he has with Marta, like, because he's acting and we don't know he's acting, he comes across as genuine in that moment.
It's interesting you bring that up, because when I did my video, I watched I watched it with Rian Johnson's. He released a director's commentary that you are supposed to put in your ears and go to the movie watch the movie for. So I downloaded that, and you know how in the movie there's a part where it does like a flashback to the family having an argument, and they're very clearly talking about Trump. They don't say his name, but they're talking about kids in cages. And Don Johnson's character, Richard, he goes, I don't like him, he's an asshole, but America needs an asshole right now. Like, that's his position. And in the commentary for Knives Out, in that scene where Ransom kind of saves Marta from the slew of everyone yelling at her after she inherits everything in the will, he's talking to her, and you do go, oh, maybe this guy is trustworthy. And in the director's commentary, Rian Johnson's like, I really wanted to go, hey, maybe we should trust the asshole. But the answer is no, never trust the asshole. The asshole is always doing something for themselves. And so I didn't even pick up on that until I listened to the commentary, that if everyone, you know, you've got a lot of these characters are not necessarily American, but commonly American stereotypes, right? You've got like there's an alt-right troll. There's a liberal kind of slacktivist in Meg's character. There's the Tony Collette's essentially playing Gwyneth Paltrow, that sort of thing. And business owners. Everyone is like the type of person you've heard of before, right? The type of like deeply flawed, selfish person you've heard of before. And I think Ransom is just straight up supposed to be Trump. I think that's just what he is an analogy for, is because he earned trust through, because it was pertinent for him to be able to pull some strings and get what he wanted by appearing as trustworthy. And I mean, Rian Johnson himself is like, never trust the asshole. And if they're talking about Trump when they say that in the film, and then Rian Johnson says it about that main character, then yeah. It's interesting. I was so fascinated when I heard that in the commentary. I was like, oh my God, of course. That's the moral of the story in a way.
Never trust an asshole. Yeah. Yeah.
Should it have called it out more transparently?
No, well, I personally, you know how you guys study films in like English class in high school? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sometimes. So whenever in New Zealand for high school, you study like a film a year in English, and people would always be like, "Oh, I can never watch V for Vendetta again because I studied it in year 12 English." For me, I love studying film. I love knowing more about a film. Like, people are always like, "Oh, the filmmaker made the curtains blue because he made the curtains blue," but English teachers will tell you it's because the scene is supposed to be sad and all this sort of thing. It's like, I love that. I love finding little pieces of symbolism that I maybe didn't think were there, and I love studying film, and I love knowing more about a film. So with that case in Knives Out, I think I appreciated finding it out from doing a little extra digging. There was like a nice reward for me listening to the director's commentary, was like working out these parallels, because I was listening to it specifically to make my video. I was like, there's got to be, if he's doing an entire commentary on this movie, surely he talks about the underlying message, and he doesn't for ages. And then during the scene where Ransom and Marta are talking to each other for the first time, and you kind of learn to trust him, he like does this massive long spiel about how Agatha Christie novels were always very political, and people don't think they are, but they were. And he does this big long spiel that's like this minute long, and all of it's in my video because it's like exactly what I was trying to communicate.
So the other side of that then, and this was possibly the thing for me, is that cast. You know, we talked about the cast, that it's got these characters and actors that we have seen in many, many other things, in major roles. There were times when I couldn't help but watch it as, this is Chris Evans doing the film he did after Endgame, and how does he do that? This is Jamie Lee Curtis, who is famed for certain roles throughout her career. What does that bring to this, rather than just the character as presented?
Well, with Chris Evans, I think that's a very intentional meta casting, because you've literally got Captain America yelling at an immigrant saying, you're stealing our home, and it's not even his home. It was inherited by Harlan in the 80s. So it's you know, like, it's, I think Captain America was intentionally cast because he's Captain America, and because he literally holds that symbol when you see him. And like, he's a good actor, and you don't think of him as Steve Rogers when watching the film. But I think Rian Johnson is clever enough to know how to pull on those little subconscious threads when you're watching something like this. And yeah, I think Chris Evans is a genius casting because of who he is, and not necessarily his acting capability, which is fine. But yeah, I think they cast him on purpose for that reason.
I think the cast, I think it was perfectly cast, honestly. Yeah. You know, the way that they very clearly delineated between, you've got the boomers, and you've got the Gen X, and you've got the millennials, and then you've got the, what are they, Gen Z?
Zoomers.
And Zoomers. I don't think I've heard that one.
I've heard it about a year ago, and I've been doing my best to perpetuate that as the term.
Until it comes back to you.
It's so perfect. Yeah. It's so perfect.
Yeah. So by drawing those lines so clearly and casting the way that they did, I found it perfect.
Yeah.
And I wasn't distracted at all by the faces, even though they're so famous, and having them all in the same room together was amazing. But they all embodied their characters so well.
Yeah.
Like, Toni Collette was delightful. I mean, she's vapid, but she's delightful.
Well, these actors are famous because they're really good actors, I think, as well. My favorite
That's
performance,
fair.
my favorite performance in the film is Michael Shannon as Walt Thromby. He's so funny. I haven't actually seen Michael Shannon in too many things, but one of the best parts of the film, which I learnt from the commentary, was actually an improvisation on Michael Shannon's part, is that famous scene where Ransom is going like, eat shit, eat shit, eat shit to everyone in the family when they're ragging on him. As the scene like leaves the room, you hear Michael Shannon yell, "I won't be eating one iota of shit," which is, oh my god, it's he improvised that line, and it's so perfect because it's one of those things where it's like, by you saying the words, you are succumbing to the joke. Like, you are being, you sound stupid because you're getting down to his level, but you think you're above it. And it's the fact that it's Michael Shannon's improv shows a really deep understanding of the character and of the storytelling as well, because it's like he knows the type of person he's supposed to be coming across as here. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen him do anything that kind of weaselly. Normally he's like in control, evil dude.
Yeah, exactly. Because in like The Shape of Water, he's just like the cartoonishly evil villain. This is the first time I think I've seen him be like a scrub, like a lower rung on the ladder.
I'm trying to think what else I've seen him in, because he's so familiar to me, and I know we talked about him when we did Groundhog Day.
That was
because
his first film.
Very young, Michael Shannon was in that.
I first saw him in Man of Steel. He played General Zod in Man of Steel. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
I have seen it, but I know.
Considering the concept of this podcast, I feel like I have to be like, have you seen this?
No, that's a valid question. I have not seen The Shape of Water, so
there you go.
I still haven't seen most things. And I think that's why I struggle with placing actors sometimes, because I know their face from, the internet and just general awareness.
Well, one actor that is in Knives Out is Lakeith Stanfield, who plays the Detective Elliot. And if you're looking for more pop culturally deprived subject material, Sorry to Bother You from 2018, Lakeith Stanfield, my favourite film of 2018. And again, going back to that director's commentary, Rian Johnson's like, this was my favourite movie of 2018, Sorry to Bother You. Nice. So I'd recommend that as well if you're looking for another more recent film. It's maybe not as... I feel like it's pop culturally deprived implies to me that you're going for like the greatest hits, right?
We have done a lot of that, but we are, at episode 160,
True.
So we are
the greatest hits are running out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but we are doing like Citizen Kane next week, so
there you go.
We're still diving into some of them, but we're trying to spread them out a little bit more now.
Because Sorry to Bother You went, I think, relatively under the radar, especially compared to something like Knives Out. But I love that movie, and that's Lakeith Stanfield is excellent in it. So there you go. Quick recommendation.
I'll have to look it up. I'm not familiar with it, so
it's good. Have you seen it, Matthew?
Yeah, I loved it. Really, weird, but really good.
A fucking weird movie, right? So weird. One of the weirdest movies. Like, you could pause it halfway through and ask everyone, where is this going? And they would not accurately guess the ending in 1 million years.
But he did that off the back of, the American adaptation of Death Note, which I really enjoyed, but again, was weird.
Did you? Oh.
Yeah, good film.
That's a controversial position to take.
I don't say it too often.
I think Richard put it on when we were flatting together in Auckland, and I think I watched about 20 minutes of it, and I was like, yo, this is real bad. I don't think I can keep watching this.
But he was in. It says he was in Uncut Gems because he's on my top seen actors on Letterboxd. So I've just seen him in lots of stuff this year.
Yeah, he's the guy in Uncut Gems who's like the friend of the basketball.
Yeah, he's the watch dude.
He's like
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
and he's
having
also
a career.
in. Yeah, he's in Atlanta as well, the TV show.
Okay. Because the
Donald
other thing I've seen this year is, of course, BoJack Horseman, and he suddenly comes up in the last 2 seasons of BoJack. And
yeah, and have you guys would have seen Get Out? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, well, he delivers the titular line in Get Out. He's the Get Out guy from Get Out.
Okay.
Is that what he's credited as? I hope so.
No, I don't think so, but he's the one who has that famous scene. So there you go. I think that was his first big kind of role.
Okay. Interesting.
So as we move into, I think we're gushing and getting onto how good this film was. I wanted to ask Mandi about the accent.
It's actually really good.
Okay.
Whoa!
It's
As
spot
someone who
on.
does a podcast about Southern representation and film.
Yeah. It feels caricaturish. It really does. And I think that's just because we know what Daniel Craig actually sounds like.
Okay.
I don't think it's
But
because
he is based on a...
He's playing a cartoon character almost. Like he's supposed to be this like larger than life eccentric character. So
the character is based on a real person,
right?
or a real like the emulation, the accent. Like there's a person out there. I can send you a YouTube video of this person speaking, and it's spot on.
Right.
Colonel Sanders?
So I was no. I want to say his name is Shelby Booth, maybe.
Groundskeeper of Starfleet Academy?
Apparently, they've toyed with the ideas in future sequels of giving him a different ridiculous accent in every film.
Really?
Which I would be kind of into, especially if it just wasn't explained. Like they don't explain. It's just this anthological, like he's just a different accented person in each film. But I think I don't know if it'd be worth it for the joke.
I do like it to sort of disrupt the tropiness of like the suave detective, the Poirot, or the person who listens to classical music or something.
Yeah. I misspoke. It's not Shelby Booth. It's Shelby Foote.
Okay.
Daniel Craig based his accent on Shelby Foote, who was a Civil War historian.
Nice.
So if you watch videos of Shelby Foote,
Interesting.
I will send you one.
Yeah, no, let's stick it in the
I mean,
show notes.
and it, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it is worth kind of joking about. I mean, you get the, what is it, CSI KFC?
Yeah.
I think there is a
Ransom says in
direct
there,
reference to Foghorn Leghorn somewhere in there, so yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you guys seen Logan Lucky?
Yes.
Because he does that. It's not the same accent. It's like more of a Texan accent, I think, in Logan Lucky. Like he's got a way different voice. But it's funny because like obviously you most associate him with James Bond, and having just watched all the James Bond movies, I feel like I've never seen another James Bond actor do a different voice in any movie before. So it's funny to have these two very distinct Daniel Craig accents in different films.
Yeah, I know all the Twitters. All of them. You haven't seen Logan Lucky, have you, Matthew?
I saw it when it came out, so... Yeah.
Oh.
I can do you one better. I've seen it, but I didn't like it. So I'm in that camp.
Oh.
I know. I'm wrong, though. I just accept that I'm in the wrong.
So here, let me tell you what my dad said about that movie, and maybe it'll make you feel better. My dad said, that's the best, worst movie I've ever seen.
Logan Lucky,
And
that
it's
feels
kind of accurate.
Maybe that's what I need to start saying when people ask my opinion on it.
Yeah.
Is it NASCAR?
It kind of, yeah. It has a little bit of that in it.
Do you just like you just like NASCAR films? Is this the thing? You and Talladega Nights?
No. No.
Hey, Talladega Nights is good, man.
It is.
I think. I haven't seen it since I was a teenager.
All right. What, Matthew, did you have any moments in this movie that you really enjoyed?
I mean, as you can probably hear, given that I've watched a lot of Lakeith Stanfield, I can take a lot of Lakeith Stanfield. He's really good in this. Just where he's like, no, that's not a reason for someone to kill them. No, that's not a reason either. He's just, I mean, for someone who is quite young, he's playing this sort of grizzled older cop who's like, I've seen a lot of stuff. These are not reasons people kill people.
Yeah.
and he sells it.
I don't know. I was arguing with him, though, because money is absolutely a reason people kill people. Absolutely. And he was arguing that
I think his point was they'll have money. I mean, they'll have money through the guy, but why would they kill him then?
Yeah.
Because, yeah, okay.
You know, it was
Well, I mean, they all have their reasons, I guess, is the point. And you need Lakeith Stanfield's character there because he's the one that grounds everyone. And you need someone who's not suspecting anyone for the movie to function, I think.
And not so much of a caricature. I think that helps him.
Yeah.
But also just the stuff that we see, that the relationship between Harlan and Marta, I think they work really well together. I think she is just such a nice person, just trying to be like, okay, I'll answer your questions, but I don't want to, so can I go? And then just, he comes and sits in the car with her, and she's like, okay, I need to kind of go and do crimey things, you just stay here. And he's like, all right, and you see him then with the headphones in. It's just, it kind of works really nicely.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
All right.
How about you? What did you like?
I think we talked about all the things I really liked. Toni Collette's performance was absolutely delightful. I loved watching her dance in the birthday party scene, and she's just like doing her own thing, and then she's like pulling on Jamie Lee Curtis, but not actually wanting her to come dance with her, just kind of aggravating her, and Jamie Lee Curtis is ignoring her. Like, it was just wonderful to watch. Like, annoying as crap, but still wonderful.
I really think we really need to do a Toni Collette month at some point.
Probably, because I don't think I've seen a lot of her stuff, but I've never seen her do something that I didn't like. So.
Nice.
Yeah. Captain America going, eat shit, eat shit, eat shit, and you eat shit, and you eat shit. I mean, that was fantastic. But I think my favorite, from a storytelling perspective and just because it made me want to stand up and clap, was when Walt came to see Marta and was telling her, if you give us the inheritance, we'll help you with your mom. We'll give you all the resources that you need. And she just looks at him and says, but Harlan gave me all of your resources, so I don't need you.
Yeah.
Right? And I was like, yes, this girl does have a backbone, because they've kind of set her up not to have one.
Yeah.
But she does. I loved it.
That's such a good way to put it. It has a function in the story, that scene where you respect Marta a little bit more as like, as you say, as a character with backbone, which could maybe be seen as something she doesn't have at that point. Yeah. Nice.
Yep. What about you, AJ? I know you've kind of gushed about the whole movie. I think you loved the whole thing, but is there a standout moment? I
think the last shot of the film, it was like such a moment where you're like, oh shit. That's what this movie is. Like this is why I found it so ridiculous that people were saying that it's not political. When it ends with like the put upon discriminated against immigrant character standing above all the people who should have the inheritance according to them, and she sips from a cup that has "My House" written on it in big letters. Like that. That's the irrational nightmare of racists, right? Is that they're going to take our land, they're going to take our home, and she does, and it's hilarious, and it's just such a wonderful moment. So I really like that. There's a real subtle moment I really like in the film, which is during that scene where they're kind of having their big argument in the flashback, and Richard calls Marta over to be like, look, you're an immigrant, but you did it right, and it's this real like, she technically. As well, her mum is an illegal immigrant, and so they're sort of talking about that. And while Richard is like arguing with the others, he hands Marta a dirty plate that he's holding, which is it's funny, but it's also subtle enough to be quite an understated kind of like character reveal that like she's not a maid. She's Harlan's carer. It's not her job to clean up after him. But while he's talking about how he's not racist, he just thinks that we need to be controlling the border and all this sort of. While he's saying that, he's literally showing that he associates a woman of color as being someone who cleans up after him, and it's a really excellent tiny little moment in the film that really elevates it, I think.
The really interesting thread that I don't think they pull on, but there's a couple of them saying, "Oh, I wish you'd been at the funeral. I was outvoted," and 2 or 3 of them say it, and it's like I kind of want to do a tally of who does that mean voted against her, who does that mean voted for her, where are the battle lines drawn?
And if enough people say, I was outvoted, does that mean that everyone's lying?
Yeah, that's
that's what I assumed. Yeah, I assumed there was no vote. They just were saying that to make her feel better, to make themselves feel better.
Yeah, exactly. And look, I know. I've said it's a political film, but it doesn't necessarily take sides. Like, it's definitely anti the commonly held beliefs of the platonic ideal of an angry Trump supporter, I guess. But Meg's character, as I said before, is a liberal, a white feminism kind of thing where she at least in part of the movie seems to be an ally, but then when Marta gets the inheritance, she becomes a vulture like all the rest of them. And I think that's important for the movie to show that. I mean, I would say by and large it's definitely a left-leaning movie, but at least it criticizes the kind of fakeness of a lot of people who think they're better than those who have different beliefs. Meg and Toni Collette's character, Joni specifically, are the more left-wing characters in the film, but they are also just as greedy and they are just as xenophobic, and I think it's important that they're in there so it doesn't just become this dragging this one type of person through the mud, which maybe isn't entirely accurate.
Right. I think it also speaks to extremes, because you do have Meg's character and can't remember the boy's name. Jacob, yep. Maybe?
Yep.
Jacob. You've got those two juxtaposed, right? Yeah. The literal Nazi.
Yeah. The alt-right youth.
Yeah.
And what's so funny about everyone saying I was reaching. I didn't mean to come on this podcast and just defend my point of view the whole time, but it's in the text, right? Not only do they have a political argument in the film, but Jacob calls Meg a liberal snowflake and she calls him an alt-right troll, and it's you're saying you're going to use these triggering words in, because when you hear those words, when you hear those names, your mind goes to all these places and the movie wants you to go to those places so that you are thinking about these things while you're watching a seemingly unrelated story to this kind of stuff, but it's not unrelated because it's all there. It's all there.
Absolutely. It was very textual, very explicit, I think.
Yeah.
All right. Well, is there anything else that we need to discuss about Knives Out?
So you've mentioned about sequels and possible sequels. What would you want to see in a sequel?
Well, I said before, I'd love to. I really definitely want an underlying message to be the connective tissue of a franchise, right? I would love to be able to be Knives Out's the immigration one, the second one's the climate change one, the third one's the financial crisis. Find these ways to make little microcosms. I think, judging by, I think Rian Johnson is gonna want to go a little more exotic for the second one. I wouldn't be surprised if we see it sort of channeling something like Death on the Nile, which is the sequel to Murder on the Orient Express. Although even Murder on the Orient Express is in a fun location. It's on a train. So I would expect to see the next one have something different than a mansion as its playground. Do you know what I mean? Whether that's a big vehicle or I don't know, a town hall or something. I think we will see a different type of living Playground, I guess. In terms of actors I'd want to see in it, a lot of people are saying Adam Driver should be in Knives Out too. That would be amazing. I would love to see Adam Driver in reunite with Rian Johnson and do a Knives Out movie. I think that'd be great. I don't have any. As much as I love Marta, I would prefer if Blanc was the only character who crossed over.
Okay, that was my next question. Is because I like the relationship between them, I'd want to see more. But am I asking for too much cake at the end of a cake thing?
I think these movies are going to be the best they can be when you don't need to watch them in order.
Right. Okay.
If you can just watch them, if they're just slightly referenced to past adventures, but whodunits like Agatha Christie's novels were like that, right? That Poirot and stuff are not really connected stories. They are mysteries involving the same central character. Because I also think it's unrealistic to expect mysteries to have connection to each other. So I don't know. I would prefer these kind of standing by themselves individual movies that you can watch in any order, sort of like with how Indiana Jones or James Bond before Daniel Craig where it's like, yeah.
What you're making me think of is George A. Romero's zombie trilogy, and directly because each thing has a message about some larger issue.
Yeah,
so
that's great. That's a great analogy.
Next one's in a shopping mall, frankly.
Yeah, great, right? Like you can do so much with just the central concept of a murder mystery with an underlying political or social message.
If
that's what. Yeah, exactly, right? If that's your moot, if that's this is what the series is about, and we have a central character that we follow, cool, man. So I don't think they should call it Knives Out 2. I think it needs a completely standalone title. Yeah. Call it whatever, and then put another Rian Johnson whodunit or something like that.
A Knives Out story.
Yeah. I mean, not even as part of the official title, just an indication that it's a sequel to Knives Out.
Right.
Yeah, and I was reading on Reddit, I think some people were posting other Radiohead song titles that could be Knives Out sequel titles, because Knives Out is a Radiohead song. The best one I saw was Burn the Witch, I think could be a cool title. Same kind of on-brand kind of thing. So, yeah.
Interesting.
What do you guys think?
I think that you have wonderful ideas. And I'm going to steal them all.
Oh, thank you so much. Just to be clear, I was asking what you guys think about a Knives Out sequel, and not what you think about my ideas. I wasn't fishing for compliments, but I will take them nonetheless.
Well, you can have them anyway, huh?
Yeah, no, I think I agree with you. It makes more sense if you can watch them out of order, if the only connective tissue is Blanc. And I'm thinking of other. I kind of hate to make this comparison, but the Dan Brown novels.
Sure, yeah.
Like there is, because time passes, there are some slight references to, I can't remember his name, Robert Langdon, maybe? I don't know the professor's name. There are some references to things that happened in previous books just because it's his life. But by and large, the plot of each book is completely independent of the other ones. And so I think that kind of works.
And I don't think enough series do that these days. I think Pirates of the Caribbean and Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them are two great examples of series which tried to be interconnected with each other, whereas they would have been better with standalone stories, at least Pirates of the Caribbean 2 and 3. Fantastic Beasts, and if you've been listening to Cult Popture for a long time, I've said this 100 times. Fantastic Beasts should have been Indiana Jones in the Harry Potter universe. I don't know why they went for this connect it to Grindelwald kind of thing. It should have just been every movie there's a different Fantastic Beast and a different Where to Find It. And keep the characters and just have them, everyone's in a different country, and it's just them trying to find a different monster. It's so obviously what it should have been, and they've ruined it by trying to connect it to the books in any kind of larger way.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. And that's kind of what you expect with a movie called Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
It's such
It's not supposed to be a political, like a wizardry political thriller.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be about Newt and his monsters.
Why is Grindelwald in my Newt Scamander movie? Make a fucking Grindelwald movie. What? Just do something different. I don't do that as well. Like I was so angry. Fantastic Beasts 2 was like the worst movie of 2018. I think the worst major blockbuster of 2018. I would say worst movie, but I've seen so many bad straight to DVD sequels for my podcast. In 2018 that I can't rightly say it's the worst one, but I went out of that movie being like, what the hell was that, man? I didn't understand a lot of it. Like a lot of it's just so convoluted and bad. Anyway, not to derail the finale of this podcast.
Yeah, well, I'm sitting here thinking, did I even see the second one? And I did. That's just how memorable it was.
It's so bad. It's actually so bad.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. We ain't watching it.
Oh, it's kind of a flip. Do you guys ever do it reverse? So it's one that Matthew hasn't seen and that Andy has?
We have done that sometimes.
We just wrapped up the Twilight series. Where we speculated.
Did you enjoy them?
But we speculated the spin-off should be Renesmee and Jacob travelling the world having adventures.
Oh, there you go.
Like a girl and
I
a
don't know
wolf.
if I want to dig more into that specific relationship, but just because of how uncomfortable it made me, that's a good idea.
Yeah, Matthew enjoyed the baseball game.
Baseball game was
It's a good
wonderful.
scene.
From the first
Bit
one.
of Muse.
Scene, yeah.
Yeah.
Bit of Thunder. Awesome. Good.
It's a good scene.
All right. Well, if you would like to join the conversation, you can use the hashtag PCDeprived on Twitter. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Eloquent Gushing, or you can send an email to podcast@eloquentgushing.com.
AJ, it's been amazing having you. Thank you so much for coming on and giving us all your political views. Where can people find your podcast? Tell us a bit about your shows, just in case people don't listen.
Sure. So, Cult Popture, CultPopture. We do videos on YouTube. We do like video essays and that sort of thing. But we also do a podcast where every fortnight we watch and discuss like a full film franchise. So as I said before, we've just finished the James Bond series, which we separated into by actor and did it across 5 different episodes. Yeah, so that's what I've been doing all year so far is watching James Bond movies. But the James Bond was actually arguably our 100th franchise we've covered on the show. So we've done everything from your greatest hits, like we did the MCU, we've done Lord of the Rings, but we've also done like Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants and Lady and the Tramp, and you know we've gone big and we've gone small. Nice. I've seen all 17 Air Bud movies. So
oh my gosh,
there's 18 now, but I have seen the 18th one. So there you go. If you're wanting to listen to a podcast that violently whip cracks back and forth between prestige, well-known film franchises and straight to DVD garbage that you maybe heard of in the back of your mind, then we're the show for you.
Yeah, thoroughly recommend it. Worth watching, worth listening to.
Thank you.
We are completely funded by our lovely listeners through Patreon, so anything you can give, even $1 a month, it gives access to exclusive content, early access to shows, bonus shows, awesome merch like coasters and stickers and magnets. So if you want to find out more, go to patreon.com/eloquentgushing.
And we will be back next week with another episode where we are going to talk about Citizen Kane. Until then, I'm Mandi Kaye.
And you make a pretty lousy murderer. Pop Culturally Deprived is an Eloquent Gushing production. For more information, visit eloquentgushing.com or find us on Twitter @eloquentgushing.